Alright, what's up, familia? Welcome inside the big rig. Hope you guys are doing good. Keep in between the lines. Got your load secure. Alright, check it out, man. I had mentioned before that I met one Mr. Ernest Kilroy Waba. Everyone just knows him as Kilroy, so we'll just call him Kilroy, okay? And, you know, a few people asked, hey, you know, how did you meet him? You said you had a one-on-one conversation. How did that go? You know, what's the story behind that? So I thought I'd go ahead and make a video. Boom, here's the video, man. First of all, let me apologize if you guys hear a little bit of traffic on the side. Hey, man, I gotta have my windows down. It's pretty warm outside, all right? Let this truck pass by. Okay, so first off, man, I'll tell you guys exactly where I met him, all right? There used to be this boxing gym called Crossroads Boxing Gym. Nice boxing gym. I thought it was a pretty badass boxing gym. It was pretty big too, man. It had 2 boxing rings in there, and it still had a lot of room, a lot of space, man. And every now and then they would hold events, right? Usually it was Friday nights. They would hold like some sparring events. They bring down other boxing gyms. They go and, you know, they test their fighters out, and it was cool, man. It was freedom, man. I'd go check them out. Every now and then they did do some events on Saturday as well. So anyway, one Saturday they're holding an event, and I remember I had something else to do that day, so I was just gonna stop by just real quick, right? The volada, man, just to go check it out, say what's up, and that's about it. So I'll tell you guys exactly where this gym was at. Okay, Crossroads Boxing Gym was on the northeast corner of D Street, D as in Delta, D Street and Euclid in Ontario, California. It's not there anymore. The boxing gym moved. I remember they shut down, they closed their doors, and they moved to 4th Street in a much smaller capacity of a facility, man. And that's not there anymore either. So I don't know if they moved from there or they just completely, you know, they completely went under. That I have no idea. But the boxing gym's not there anymore. But anyway, I went ahead. I stopped by just to see what's up, man. My boy Banky was there. He's a boxing trainer. I was chopping it up with him. It was before the event was supposed to take place. Shoot, you know what? I'm not sure if it was before or after. But either way, there wasn't a lot of people there yet, or maybe a lot of people had already left, right? So, you know, in the distance, I see this vato, right? Old school looking vato, homie. And, you know, I'm chopping it up with my boy Spanky, man. Just, you know, we're just walking around the gym, man, just chopping it up. I can't even really remember about what, right? And then he's all like, hey, man, that's Kilroy out there, right? Because he was outside. Kilroy was outside talking to a couple of ladies. And I'm like, Kilroy? He's all like, yeah. I'm like, Kilroy? I had not heard the name Kilroy in a minute. Okay, at that point, it had been a minute since I actually heard the name Kilroy. And I'm like Kilroy? Like the Kilroy? And he's all like, yeah, man, that's him out there. I'm like, orale. I had no idea that he was going to be there, right? So let's push pause on the story and just rewind a little bit on Kilroy and my understanding of Kilroy and the story on that, okay? Well, first, before we get to that, if you guys don't know who Kilroy is, this guy, you know, I'm not gonna get into the whole story, and you know, there's a whole movie out there. Shouts to my boy Pablo from LA Times. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna leave a link of not the movie, but a video that LA Times has on Kilroy, so you guys can get a better understanding on who he is. But this guy, you know, being from Southern California, this guy was up there in the prison system, man. He was big time, Holmes, big time, right? Like Chewy says. So rewind, right? In my life. So being from the east side, man, I used to hear the name Kilroy, right? He's from the east side as well. And not only that, but also my ex-father-in-law, okay, who's from the east side, he was a big pintero, always in and out of the pinta, man. May he rest in peace. Shout outs to Smokey. He died. He had health complications at the end of his life, man, and that took him. And he used to, he used to put me up on game, homie, on what's going on and everything like that, right? When it comes to that world, okay? And so when the Vato Banky told me that that's Kilroy out there, I already had an understanding. I'm like, orale, man, this is Kilroy, like Kilroy, right? And you guys got to understand, at this point, I'm in my late 20s, early 30s. I kind of wish I was one of those vatos, man, that remembered the date, the time, and everything. Like, that's, every time I hear a story and I just hear an old timer say, the date and the time and everything, like, back in May 7th, 1973, like that. But that's not me, Holmes. I don't remember how old I was, man. I remember around the time of my life, I was in my, like I'm saying, late 20s, early 30s. I'm thinking more of my late 20s. Right? So, my mentality was much different back then. So when he told me that, to me, I was kind of starstruck, man. I was thinking like, man, this vato, to me, he's a superhero, Holmes, right? Because I've been knowing of who Kilroy is, right? So I'm like, damn. And he's all like, yeah, man, go say what's up to him, And this vato, Banky, shouts to Banky. I don't know where he's at. I lost contact with him. He was older. He was an older vato, man. And he's all like, yeah, go see what's up with him, man. He's cool and everything. So I'm like, yeah. So, I go out there. He's talking to these two ladies, man, about the event. And they're like, oh, okay, and, I saw him, man. I saw Estilo, his get down. And I'm like, damn, this vato like straight, kind of like old school Cholo Estilo, right? And I go, I'm like, he looks at me because he sees that I'm out there and there's not a lot of people, man. We were on the sidewalk and he just kind of like nods his head. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? Are you Kilroy? I already knew it was Kilroy, right? But I was just trying to break the ice. Like, hey, man, you Kilroy? And he's just like, yeah, man. So we shook hands and the ladies went inside, right? So it was just him and I out there. And, he starts talking to me, man. Yeah, what's up, man? And I'm like, oh yeah, man. You know what? I start talking to him, right? Like, yeah, man. You know what, man? I've heard of you, and and stuff like that. And I already, by this time, it had been known that he had changed his life around and that he was a Christian. Okay, as a matter of fact, he was holding a Bible when I met him. He was holding a Bible, and I'll get to that in a minute. While he was outside on the sidewalk, he was holding a Bible. So, we start chopping it up, man. We start talking and everything, and I'm like, to me, I want everybody to understand, man. To me, at that time, right, it's like, man, there's a vato from the east side, from Southern Cali, man. This guy was, straight out, like, up there, right? And, I'm trying not to show it like, man, dog, like, you're a hero, But I'm trying not to show it, man, trying to keep it cool and everything, like, all right, cool, man, and everything. And I'm trying to get Glecha, right? I'm trying to get him, like, to talk about certain, I want to talk about the streets. Like, that's what I'm trying to do. Okay? I'm over there trying to talk to this man about the streets, about the calles, about the gangs, about, all that stuff, right? Not so much about what's going on in the inside or anything, but I'm trying to talk to him about all that, right? And real cool, calmly and everything, he's talking to me about it. And here's the key thing. he's talking to me about it, and at some point, slowly but surely, it turns into a conversation about God, right? I've always been a believer in God, but I my times back then were so much different, right? But anyway, at some point we'd be in conversation, and a few minutes will go by, and I'm like, hey, wait a second. In my mind, I'm like, hey, wait a second. How are we talking about God? And he's busting his Bible open. I'm like, I'm there, and I'm like, wait, what's going on here, man? Right? I'm over here trying to talk about the streets, homie, the gangs and everything like that. So I'm like, okay, so I'm like, man. So I try to shift it back, right? I try to shift it back to the streets, the hoods, the barrios, and everything like that, right? So I do, and boom, that's where the conversation goes back to, right? And again, it took some time, but eventually it turned. The conversation slowly turned without me even noticing it, and next thing you know, we're talking about God. And again, dog, I was just like, wait, what just happened, man? We were just talking about, A, B, and C, the A, B, and C's of the streets, homie, of the gangs and everything. And now we're over here, talking about the Bible, right? So, that was good, man. that was good. So, at some point, so I'm like, okay, man, what's up, man? Because I'm telling you guys, today would have been different, but back then I wasn't trying to hear that, dog. All right, that's why I'm telling you guys. You guys understand my mentality back then. It's not what it is today. I ain't trying to hear none of that stuff, man. All right, I'm trying to soak up game, right? But at one point he mentions boxing, right? Tells me that he's a huge boxing aficionado, big boxing fan, and then he also mentions the Dodgers to me, right? And I'm like, all right, cool, man. And for those who don't know, man, I'm a big boxing fan. It's my favorite sport, man, out of all sports, right? And I'm a huge Dodger fan too, man. He mentions both of those things to me, and me, foolishly, I don't really pick up on it, man. I'm over here just trying to have a different conversation with the man, right? Not like I'm getting upset or I'm getting frustrated or nothing like that. Nothing like that, man. The conversation was good, calm, collective, and everything, man. And I appreciate it, because here's the thing. The ladies came back out at some point, and they said, they're like, oh, you know what? We need you now. The individual that owned the boxing gym, I don't remember his name, but they're like, hey, he needs you upstairs. So if I remembered his name, I would have said it, right? But so he's all like, oh, okay, tell him I'll be right there. So by that time, I'm like, okay, he's got to get going, dog. And I had something to do that day as well, so I wasn't going to be able to hang around for the event. Whether the event, I think it was before the event, dog. Seeing my memory is just like, man. But so anyway, I was just like, all right, man, yeah, well, you know what, Kilroy, hey, big dog, it was good meeting you, man, and everything. And he's all like, yeah, likewise. And I remember his facial, expression, right? Like his face, man, like, his jaw sticks out a little bit, right? This is where it caught me. Like his face, right? Because I'm like, all right, big homie, keep through trying and everything, right? And he looks at me, and while he's shaking my hand, he looks at me, and he's, with this rough voice, right? He looks at me, and this is how I remember his face, picture perfect. He looks at me right in my eyes, and he says, I'm a man of God. It was just, man, homie, I felt like chills in my spine, dog. Serio, homie. I ain't there's no embellishment here. When he said that, that's why I remember, like, his jaw, just his movement of his face, like, I'm a man of God, And I was just like, damn. Like, that hit me for one reason or another, dog. It hit me. It hit me pretty hard. It's like, wow, dog. Like, he didn't say it mean. He said it very nice, but very powerful, very impactful, man. And I'm like, órale, man. He's all like, yeah. And he says, cuídate, carnal. Right? And I'm like, all right. Boom. Walks inside. I walk away, right? Because, I had something, man, I don't even remember what I had to do that day, right? If I had the mentality that I had today, whatever it was, I would probably stuck around, man, and probably chopped it up with them a little bit more in a different way, of course. But I don't know, I had probably something foolish to do that day, man. I don't even remember what I had to do that day. But here's the thing, though. I walked away. I walked away a little bit vexed. A little bit confused. Okay? Because I was thinking I was going to get something a little bit different from him. Okay? I've come across quite a few people before that. Okay, before me meeting him, I'd come across a few people, and even known a couple of older homies, dog, that have said, like, hey, you know what? I'm a man of God now. I've given my life to God, right? Stuff like that. Like, oh, I don't mess around the streets. I go to church now, and stuff like that, right? But see, a lot, if not most, of the people that I've known that have done that, okay, come to find out they're not really, they don't really walk that talk, Holmes. And I think that hurts the people that really truly walk that line, that walk that life, right? Because then you get people that get so judgmental and be like, oh, you know what, they only say that, they're only doing that, and oh, nah, homie. I'm telling you guys right now, man. Okay, it was different with KILROY, and I'm gonna get to that in just a second. Let this truck pass by. So there was always like still that gangster in a lot of these dudes, Holmes. Serio, there was still that gangster, that gangbanger, man, that was still, wanting to be part of the hood and stuff, man. But then, it's like, oh, but I walk with God now, right? And that's why when I thought I was going to meet, or when the homeboy Banky told me that's KILROY, that's something along the line that I was expecting. I was expecting to meet, KILROY, but to still be, hey, I'm still a gangster, you know what I mean? I'm still about the gang life, dog. But I just, I go to church now. But that's not what I got at all, man. And that's why I left a little bit vexed, a little bit perplexed, man. Maybe a little disappointed, because I thought I was going to get, a gangster, homie. But that's not what I got. I got a real, true man of God. It was a different experience. And at that time, right? At that time, I was like, oh man, you know what? I met KILROY, homie. I met KILROY, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Wow, at that time, I could not understand and appreciate as much. To me, it was more of a little bit of a big head, especially when he called me carnal, right? When he called me carnal, I walked away kind of big-headed. Today, I take it very humbly, right? Let this other truck pass by, guys. Hang on. Hey, I'm a trucker, dog, all right? So, you know, I walked away a little bit big-headed thing, like, man, he called me God. Not, you know, just all that stuff, right? But, because he was, at least to me, I saw him like a legend, right? In the life. But today, I take it as a very humble experience. And while I probably did not appreciate it at that time for what it was, man, homie, man, I can truly 100% appreciate it today. See, maybe at that time in my life, I couldn't see what it really was. And it took some years. But I see what it is today, man. And that meeting that I had with him, or I call it meeting, just the fact that I was able to meet him and have a conversation with him, and the conversation that we did have, you know, I look back at it and say, like, man, you know what, like, how foolish of me, right? He brought up boxing. We could have had, you know, a great conversation about boxing. He brought up the Dodgers, man. You know, we could have talked about that. We could have talked baseball. We could have talked some pitching. We could have talked some ERAs, you know. We could have done all that, man. But we didn't, because my mind was out of shape. And I'm sure he knew that. My mind was out of shape, homie. Right? And it wasn't until I got my mind in shape that I'm able to look back and say, wow, I can truly appreciate it now. That man, you know, with just a very little experience that I have, that man was truly about what he was talking about. No ands, if or buts about it. And the impact that it has on me today, every time I look back at it, like I said, I can still see his face. And you know what? Maybe he doesn't even remember me, man. I understand he's passed, he's up with the Lord now and everything, but I'm sure if you were around today, he probably won't remember me, and that's all right, man. But whenever anybody, man, well, first, before I say that, I just want to say, man, you know, it's a very humbling experience, and maybe a lot of you guys can have an experience at some point and maybe not appreciate it for what it was at the time, but then be humbled by it many years later. You know, that's the experience, me meeting KILROY and having a conversation with him. And I just want to say this. If anybody ever asks me, hey, who's the nicest, sweetest guy? Let me put the window up, man. If anybody ever were to ask me, which I don't know why anybody would ask me this, but if anybody were to ever ask me, hey, who's the nicest, just sweetest guy, dog, that you've ever met? I could come up with a few names, but till this day, the first name or the first face that ever pops into my mind is KILROY. May he rest with God. As always, familia, live your life like you're on the road. Be aware of your surroundings and always keep a safe distance. Blood makes you lit, but loyalty makes you family. Till next time, this is Ed the Total Trucker. Over and out.